The color wheel section of the Lumetri color panel can actually be used to complement other corrections you've already made, or you can correct a shot entirely using just the tools available to you in this section. Now, the two sets of tools that you'll be working with are sliders, and these work with the luminance, and it works in the shadow areas, the mid-range, and the highlights, things we've used before. Now, the circles are actually color wheels that allow us to adjust hue and saturation. So take a look at this image. This is in Florence, and it's shot over the river, and it looks okay except for the fact it really doesn't look okay. If I look at my scopes and I look at my eyes, I can see that it needs a little more contrast. The blacks need to be richer. I could probably get some more luminance out of it in the brights, and the color's off. If we look at our RGB parade, you know, these should be relatively even. So I have a lot of reds, and what's interesting to note here is that using the RGB parade, I can see that I have a lot of reds in my highlights. So I just want to bring down the reds in the highlights and match them to the blues and the greens. I also have a lot of blue over here in my mids and not enough red down in the lower section in my shadows. So that's our goal in using the scopes, and we'll also use our eyes. So once again, we'll start with luminance, and we'll use the sliders to the left of the circles. I'm going to grab the first one on the far left, that's dealing with my shadows, and pull it down until I see on my waveform that I'm just touching the 0. Now, don't panic with your RGB parade just yet, because we're going to use that for color. So now my blacks are a lot richer. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to bring my highlights so they do hit 100. Now, in the case of this footage, it was a GoPro. There's not a lot of detail in the sky, so there's nothing really to recover. So I just want the scene to look good, and I want the color to look good. I'm going to go ahead, grab my midtones, and if I bring them down just a little bit, the scene looks nice and rich. If I bring it up, you know, I might see a little more detail. So again, this is very subjective to the way you want the image to look. I'll bring this up a little bit. It affected my blacks, so I can bring them down. And now the luminance of this shot works. I want to go ahead and fix the color. So once again, if I look over to the left at my RGB parade, I see that I want to be able to adjust and pull out some green and pull out some red to fix the shot. I like starting in the mid-range. So I'm going to go to this center circle, and I'm going to drag it in the opposite direction of the color I have too much of. So I see that this is a little green, the water's a little green, so I'm going to grab it by the middle and move it over towards the reds just to neutralize this. And if you take a look at my scopes, the reds and the greens are starting to match up a little bit. I think I went a little bit too far because I was looking at my scope and just talking. So let's bring that back a little bit and make sure that, you know, the greens have been neutralized. We still have to deal with some really ugly reds. Now I want to point something out. You'll notice that as soon as I modify any of my color wheels, it goes from a hollow circle to a filled in circle. Now this is great for two reasons. One, by just quickly looking at it, I can see that I've affected this adjustment. And the second thing is, when you're color correcting, you want your interface to be as neutral as possible. So what Adobe did when developing the color wheels is, since you're not really using them, or when you're not really using them, let's use as little color as possible. We might as well make the center black. So that's the thinking behind it. If I needed to reset this, just like we learned earlier, I can simply double click on it. We now have a hollow circle and it's been reset. Let's go ahead and make our color correction. I have a lot of green here. I just want to move a little bit. Now, with using color wheels for color correction, you really want to be very subtle. As a matter of fact, you'll notice that using this adjustment, you really are moving minute amounts as you move your mouse. If you, by any chance, need to move it faster, if you hold down the Shift key, you can really basically loosen it up. So without the Shift key, it's good. You can be subtle. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get rid of some of that green. And now I really want to fix my highlights and my shadows. way too much red up here. So I'm going to go to my highlights and I'm going to pull it in the opposite direction of red. I'm going to pull it down towards the cyan and the blue. And you'll notice as I pull it down, look at the very top of my RGB parade. It's actually coming into line with the green and the blue. So I've got the red, I've got the green. Maybe I need to pull it away from the blue a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just moving it up. And as I move it away from the blue, I now have my red and my blue more even. I'm going to leave that for a while. I'm going to do the same thing in my shadows. As I move it up, you'll notice that I'm actually making the image redder. It's doing the opposite of what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it away. And notice as I pull it away from the red, it starts bringing that lower section down. And once they're even, I've kind of neutralized the color cast in my shadows. And if I need to tweak between green and blue, I can simply move this left and right. So this is doing both hue and saturation. Once I have this adjusted, I'm going to go ahead and just do some fine tuning, but I think it's pretty good. Now, we've learned in earlier lessons that the best thing to do when you're color grading is remember to look at the before and the after. As we learned in earlier lessons, you can match frame the image, but in this case, I want to see my scopes, so I'm going to go over here and use this checkbox and toggle the adjustment on and off. So this is the adjusted image, and this is the original image. Obviously, it's a lot less contrast, and the colors are definitely off. I really like this image. I may want to go up and make it pop a little bit more, give it a little bit more saturation. So I jump back into the basic corrections and just add a little bit of saturation to the image. Or perhaps if I had some really bright colors, I might go down to the creative section and work with vibrance. I'm pretty happy with the way this image looks, and I was able to achieve this in just the color wheel section of the Lumetri color effect.